Hunt. I'll call this meeting of the Kendall Independent School District to order. Let the record reflect that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just lost my. One moment. I just lost my side here.
I was gonna, before we get started, I was gonna let Ms. Williams, she had brought some gifts for you, so I was gonna let her explain what she got, and we'll let her go from there and move on.
Well, good evening. The Kendall Education Foundation, we want to provide every single employee, staff member of the district masks. So we have had, we have been to every building, every school, every administration, and we provided masks for every single employee, maintenance, including food services, everybody that works for the district. We really want to be there for you guys. We understand this is completely different than usual, and so we wanted to make sure we provide you with something to get ready for school, back face to face with our students. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
First item on our agenda is obviously roll call. Let the record reflect that all trustees are present, save and except Mr. Hunt, who is absent. Next up is public comments on agenda items. I have one sign-in on a non-agenda item. There's nothing on the agenda? There's nothing on the agenda item?
No.
Just as one. Then I'll ask Ms. Madison Fail to come forward with regard to a non-agenda item for comment.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Madison Fail, and I created the petition to mandate masks in all KISD facilities. I don't believe that has been talked about in one of your meetings since I created it a few months ago. So I came here today to advocate for my cause. I'd like to start out by saying I do understand that Governor Abbott sent out an order saying that students will be required to wear masks in situations where they cannot social distance, and that whenever they can accomplish social distancing, they will not be required to wear masks. I also understand that TEA said that the school districts are required to follow the governor's orders, so I do understand that. But I would like to say that Arlington ISD, a far greater in size school district than Kennedale, has successfully been able to mandate masks in their facilities for all 1st through 12th graders. So since we are a much smaller district, I don't quite understand why we aren't capable to do that here. One of my first points is that teachers didn't have a choice whether or not they could stay home, and the teachers are going to be more at risk than any of the students due to their age and likelihood to have those underlying conditions and to be immunocompromised. So I personally am the daughter of a teacher, and my aunt actually works for KISD. Neither of them really voiced their concerns to me. As I am a child, they don't want to worry me. You know how it is, I'm sure most of you are parents. But I can see that they are fearful. My aunt's husband has to take chemo medicine, which degrades his immune system, and my mother has a son with asthma and a mother who is over the age of 70. We are greatly concerned for their health, and I am concerned for the health of other immunocompromised members of this community, and I think mandating masks would be a good way to protect them. Masks are not meant to protect you. They are meant to protect the people around you from the particles you breathe out and things that are expelled whenever you speak, cough, sneeze, whatever, you name it. Even in a place where social distancing can be accomplished, if one or more students decides not to wear a mask, it becomes ineffective. It does. One cough, one sneeze is enough to cause 3 or 4 people around them to catch COVID if they do have it. I think that's dangerous. Today in Tarrant County, there were 587 new cases, and on Tuesday, the state of Texas reported 17,000. Those numbers are scary. Texas is still in a spike. The numbers haven't gone down, and in a quote by Governor Abbott, he said in an interview that we cannot get rid of the mandate until the numbers decline. That hasn't happened yet. Masks are required in businesses. They're required in public. I think they should be required in schools as well. If not to protect you, but to protect other members of this community. Please, I'm begging you. I'm worried for my family. I'm worried for my friends. I need you to at least consider this. Personally, I went to school today for the first time for one of my classes. And when I got there, I was terrified by what I saw. There were people in the hallways walking in groups, not social distancing, with their masks underneath their nose. When I got into class, a boy sitting next to me took his mask off, and I had to ask him to put it back on, and he spoke directly to me. My teacher had on a face shield. It's angled. It doesn't go straight over your face, and he did not have a mask on. He spoke to us while we were sitting down. You can understand how that's a problem. If he were to speak to us sitting down with an angled face shield, anything that came out of his mouth would be able to touch us. We also had to share utensils, and we didn't have to wipe down our seats after we got up. In fact, he changed seats after we sat down. I find that dangerous. Don't you? Please, at least consider it. I didn't want to go back to school, but I'm a senior, and I don't want to have to make sacrifices to my schedule that could limit my college resume. You gave us virtual options. You also gave us hybrid and in-person options, fully. That doesn't seem fair to me. I want to stay home to protect my family, but I can't. You didn't give me that option. Do you know how hard it is to make a schedule that is completely virtual? It's even difficult to make a schedule that just has hybrid classes. Please, at least consider it. That's all I ask of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is our consent agenda. All items listed under this subheading will be adopted with one motion unless they are removed from the consent agenda by a trustee for discussion. Have you received any requests?
No.
Does any trustee have a request to remove an item from the consent agenda? Then I will entertain a motion with regard to the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ham and seconded by Mr. Bisco. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. That motion passes. Next up, we have the superintendent's report.
We're gonna have the principals kind of tell you about the first day, but we made an executive decision today was a long day for them, and the board meeting is gonna be a long night, so, tomorrow's gonna be another long day, so we allowed them to miss the meeting tonight. I will give you this sheet.
We don't have exact numbers, so let's pass those down.
For the number of in-person students at the high school, 987 students. We had 625 in-person, roughly 63. That's a rough number, 625, but roughly 63%, which was lower than what they were projecting. At the junior high, out of 503 students, we had 275, about 54.7%. And then Arthur at 412 students. We had 216 in person for 52%. And Delaney 558, sorry, I can't read. We had 328 in person for about 58.8%. So Delaney and the high school were right at, or a little over and right at 60%. And then Patterson had 421 and 275 in person. They had 65.3%. So, and I said, these are not exact numbers. Some are exact, some are not, but they're close estimates. So we did not have the high percentages that we thought we were going to have. We were thinking we may be closer to 70%, but we're kind of in between the 50 and the, I think I said originally around 65%, and we're kind of tracking along that path right now. And then as far as first day, the arrival, on the campuses, we divided our admin team out, and everybody was on different campuses. I was at Delaney, the high school, and then I went to Arthur, and then I went to the junior high, and I was kind of checking in with everybody. I saw Mr. Visco at 2 of the campuses. Everything very, very smoothly, very positive as far as starting back and getting people in. You ladies were all on different campuses, and everything went very well. So Mr. Adams was at Arthur, so Mike was at the high school. Eileen, Patterson, where were you, Miss Dickey? Junior high?
Yes, very smooth, very, very smooth.
So, I mean, very positive feedback. A lot of happy kids. So we're rocking and rolling. Tomorrow we'll have another first day and see how we go. We sent out the commitment forms. We didn't. There was a lot of confusion with the commitment forms, and we sent the one out in the middle of the summer, and then the TA comes out and changed the guidelines on us and said families had until 2 weeks before the start of school. So we sent another one out, and there was confusion on if they already filled it out, do they need to fill it out again? And the numbers, we weren't quite getting the numbers that we were hoping for and the participation. But all in all, I think we're kind of tracking right at pretty close to where we thought we would be. So,
Okay.
So, anything else you would like to know about the first day? So.
Any issues with buses or anything like that?
The buses, I spoke with bus drivers. I actually went and interviewed them personally and said, were there any issues? And the kids were wearing their masks, and there weren't very many numbers on the buses, so the numbers are low, and they were all compliant, doing what they were asked to do. So no issues there. No. And then cafeteria, I was at Arthur during lunch, and kids were spaced out. Numbers, I know we're trying to find enough areas in the high school to make sure that we have the kids spaced out there, but I think they're working. They've got lots of different areas and spaces that they've marked off and designated for the lunches. So we've also added lunches to the schedule to divide out the number of kids. So. All right.
One thing on the survey that was sent out, where are we as far as students right now? Do we feel like, are there some students that did not take the survey that have not shown up yet? It looks like we're down 93 kids than what the enrollment was last year. Are there more kids that are expected to come in that maybe just didn't show up on the first day based off the survey results?
No, I think what we have is we had, we have our up and down years where we have increases in enrollment, we have decreases in enrollment. A lot of charter schools and private schools enrollments have gone up. We've had students that have left the district and gone other places, or homeschooling is also going up, and that's nationwide. That's not just here in Kennedale. That's statewide, nationwide. So I think the numbers have gone to other schools as far as that. But as far as like missing students, no, we're not just missing students.
Because I think one concern that I think about, just because I took that survey, it was a little cumbersome. I mean, it is what it is, right? So it just makes me wonder if some people just didn't fill it out, but we're going to be virtual, so they didn't show up. They stayed virtual today, but then, you know what I'm saying, didn't fill out the survey. So right here I see 1,719 kids were in person, so it just makes me wonder if tomorrow we're going to have an extra 30 kids show up to a campus and, in a I just think of the classroom sizes, like teachers getting adjusted to classroom size, and all of a sudden tomorrow I'm gonna have 5 more kids in my class
That's
now.
a very definite possibility. I mean, I don't, it's an imperfect world right now, and we told our campus administrators to sit there and prepare for that reality, and so hopefully they've addressed that with their staffs, but, we asked for cooperation with the survey, and we asked that, parents fill it out, but we can't force them to fill it out. We are trying to hold them to that commitment till the end of the 9 weeks. We also said that, we anticipated that we would have varying numbers this first day and possibly through tomorrow, but by Monday we'll have a very definite idea, and that's when we will lock in for the remainder of this 9 week.
Okay.
Yeah, I figure Monday you'll probably have a whole different set of numbers too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
everyone wanted to let Thursday and Friday get smooth, and then they'll.
And we
Ms.
have.
Fail, will you put your phone away, please?
I can't live stream this?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
Thank you. It's being recorded, and we have that in place already.
My family members wanted to watch, so I told them.
We don't have live streaming, so thank you. Okay. Thanks. Anybody else have questions on that?
Nope.
Tasby review. Item B for you.
Okay, so B under that is
Tasby review.
rescheduling the Tasby policy review. Tasby had shut down their operations. They are pushing us out until December or January to come in person. We've requested that it be in person, so it'll probably be December, January before we get the policy review done there. So just giving you a heads up on that one. And then C, the board book premiere. We're about to switch over for the next board meeting in October. Tracy has asked that we have about 10 minutes for her to train you on the board book premiere before the switch over to the next meeting. So we are looking at the next board item, or the item is the governance training. I'm trying to set up something for October 15th for governance training, and we could possibly do Tracy's training right before that and then move into that. So kind of combine C and D. You asked me to research and look for training that governance could have, or governance training for the board. I've researched Tasby, I've looked at the Diligence Insight, I've looked at Moat Casey, and the group that I believe that we need to go with is Moat Casey for the training. And so we can do that. I've set up a tentative time with them on the 15th. Either it's 6 or 7, depending on what your schedules say, and that's what you want to move forward with. So.
The only thought I would have with regard to training is, would it make some sense to have that training after the election and invite whoever is elected to at least sit through that first one?
Yes, I
We had
think that would be a
discovered-
wonderful idea.
We had this conversation, with them today, and, there are other components to, I think the governance training also will lead to the strategic planning that we're also looking at finishing up, and, the longer we put those things off, I think the further out we're gonna be. And, the concern that I have, and that I've heard from you, is that we've been down this road before. We have tried to sit there and get our strategic plan, and we tried to sit there and redo the goals and the vision, and it just faltered away. And trying to keep pushing through with that. I think there's some things that we can start in October,
Okay.
that we can keep pushing through, that they'll be working with us with this plan for a while. It's not gonna be a one and done thing, so it will be an ongoing thing. I think this would just be a meeting to get things started and rolling, so in October 15th.
I was just throwing it out there because I know some members who won't be here will say, more training while I'm.
But, I mean, I would also, in my argument would be, obviously, we're gonna have one new board member, possibly 2 new board members. But what are they really gonna know about the way the board is operated? And having some of those things, that they're not gonna have that insight to sit there and give to this company to help work through some of those governance issues. So having those ideas and where to move forward, plus they're very much a big part of the strategic planning. The strategic plan guides a lot of those governance issues, and moving forward with the dashboard and the things that we want to do as far as the oversight as opposed to the day-to-day operations. So.
Well, I still think there is some benefit if we're having that kind of training to at least invite, if there's a new board member, invite them to come and sit in the audience and hear the discussion, because I think that will hopefully give them a little leg up. I mean, hopefully they'll pay attention, if no one else has a problem with that.
Are you saying for the October one?
I don't,
For the October training, invite, well, I'm sorry, and November, if we have anything after their election, invite them to participate.
yes.
So that they can
Gotcha.
sit in and start to hear what we're talking about, so it's not,
Right.
you wait till January or whatever
Right.
timeframe. Let's get them in and get them started if we can.
Yep.
Okay, it's good to me.
Anything else on your report?
Nope.
All right.
Okay, so am I right, are we looking, is October 15th the date? Am I writing that down, or y'all looking at?
Are y'all good
Are we
with
gonna do that
October
later,
18th?
or
So-
y'all
Do we-
gonna,
Do we
We
have
have
any?
discussion, we have discussion on it later. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
so, I mean,
we're gonna do the date later?
yeah,
Okay.
it shows up later, so probably.
And
we can talk
time,
about it.
so.
Then we have, well, it's right now, board discussion, item 7, board discussion regarding the meeting date for October.
How about October 15th?
Okay, I think that's a good date.
I
Does
got a
anybody have
good
problem with
idea.
15?
Do we
So
have
it's
any
a-
conflicting events?
So,
It's a Thursday.
There's not a football game on that Thursday.
That's what I'm
No
getting-
volleyball.
what I'm getting to.
Now, there is, that's when I think the regular board meeting was scheduled, and Tracy was asking that that's gonna be very close to this board meeting, so pushing the regular board meeting back to either the next week, which would be the 22nd,
Right.
or the 29th. We have actually 5 weeks in October, so we could even push it back, the regular meeting, to the 29th, depending. So, but pushing it back from the 15th gives her more time to work on getting the agenda put together and the board packet put together, so.
It gives you more time to kind of update the reports of how we're doing, so I think it's probably good to have a regular interval for a little while if we can. So I'm not opposed to doing the 22nd. Is anybody opposed to 22nd
For the
I
regular?
can do
for a
it.
regular meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Bisco?
I don't
Okay.
have a problem with that.
And y'all still want to stay with 7 o'clock for the regular meetings?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Can we have an hour before to do the other parts?
The-
The governance training and the,
They would like to have at least 2 hours, so
Okay.
that's why I was thinking of having a special meeting on the 15th, you know, for that.
Okay.
And then Tracy also needs to prepare you for the board book, for the switching over to board book premiere.
so you're talking about a special meeting on the 15th and a regular meeting on the 22nd?
Special meeting on,
I don't expect she don't get to show up.
Okay,
Oh, he's showing
so,
up.
it's the special.
We're talking about a special meeting
If
on
you eat the
October
food, you
15th
gotta
at
stay for
7.
the-
If,
stay for
yeah,
the
you have
meeting.
to stay if you eat. No eating and run.
So-
6 o'clock for the special,
You want to do 6 or 7?
At 6 is fine.
if we're doing 2 hours,
Yeah.
it's 2
6 is
hours.
fine, okay. So let's make it 6 o'clock on the 15th for a special session, and October 22nd for our regular meeting at 7. Good? Any problems? All right, then we will move on. First item requiring action is review, discuss, possible approval of installation project at James A. Arthur. Mr. G?
Okay, so when we redid the roof in the gym and at Arthur, or repaired the roof, we completely replaced it. But when they were on it moving around, obviously the insulation of it got dislodged. We had some issues last year with the insulation, some of it coming down. The problem with the insulation is that it was put in there, what year was it put in there?
It was put in there when it was built, 2008.
2008. So in 2008, so that's been a while now, that insulation is this thick.
Right.
And code, I think, requires at least 2 inches, okay?
It's a normal bat insulation that you have in a metal building that roll out and stick in there, is that kind of what it is?
You know, I'll be honest with you, I've never seen it anywhere like that. The only 2 places I've ever seen it is in Arthur's gym and the junior high field house. It is incredibly, I mean, it's
Okay.
T90. Everyone that's looked at it said, I don't know how y'all did that without, but it should be at least 2 inches, and it's not even.
And it's the rollout, you know, insulation, so it has to have seams, and the tape starts coming off and starts dingling down, and the tape falls off. And now that they've walked on it, other places it's fallen off. We have contingency left over from the roofs, okay? But that insulation was not part of that project. So when we were getting bids, it was looking like it was going to be over $50,000 threshold for my authority to approve. We've gotten some more quotes or another quote, and actually it's below that. That quote is below it, but it requires us removing the insulation, which our guys can do. We just have to rent a machine and get in there. And we really haven't touched it because we weren't sure if we were gonna go ahead and pull it out and we can get it done by Thanksgiving. You know, if our guys pull it out and we can get the company in, we just have to have approval tonight to get that ball rolling to move forward with the installation. And this company will actually, I'll let her, she's got the bids, I can let her tell you, but.
Basically, what we
Yeah.
did do, because I did send you pictures of what it looked like, it was really in bad shape. Maintenance did go back in and we did repatch some of that and tack it back up, so today when the kids came back, it didn't look like that. And we were afraid some of it might fall on the kids, so we did get that taken care of. I was maybe talking to 3 people on it. The one guy kept saying he was gonna come out, and he was Dallas phone, he never showed up. BCI is a mom
Hey,
and pop shop.
Just one second. Could you come to the microphone so
I'm sorry,
everybody
I'm
else can
sorry.
hear?
I was worried about my man.
It's okay.
Them running up front. I'll be honest, I was really shocked when I found out how much it cost to put foam in, because I thought it was gonna be something that was gonna be quick and easy, but, anyways, the one company that originally we talked to a year ago before we did the review project, I had put that on the 5-year plan that we needed to do that was BCI. I don't believe they're in business anymore. I went ahead and left their stuff in here, because it was like, oh yeah, we'll be ready for you. I don't think they're ready for us, but anyways, Bentley and Sons was a company that K-Post reached out to. They're in Caddo Mills. They're a good company. So is the Smart Seal. They're the company that I found when I was Googling and checking out companies. I came across about 15 different companies. Most of them don't want to touch a school district because of the liability and the workers' comp and stuff they have to have there in the background checks. They're more, they want to do radium barrier and that kind of thing. But anyways, in talking with Smart Seal, the owner did come out and look at it, walk it with me. He goes, well, if y'all will rip this down, I can do this considerably cheaper. And so he gave me the quote, and it was only the $44,280. So I did call the Bentley and Sons back to give them an opportunity. Said, hey, I've gotten another quote. They did take out the removal. If we do the removal, can you give us another quote? So their price did come down too. It's still 63, it's a little bit higher. And I probably, in all honesty, I believe they probably have some travel built in there because Caddo Mills is a little bit further than Granbury. But everything I've read about both companies on reviews, and they've both been, I just feel like since we did have that little bit of contingency, wasn't a lot, it was about $108,000 that we didn't spend of the 2.9. And unfortunately, we had a lot of damage on some trusses that would have been even bigger had we not had some further damage that we discovered. But if we could ask to use that money to go ahead and get them insulated, to give them a good environment for their students and their staff, because it's just never cooled or heated well in there, so.
And one thing with the foam insulation, it's gonna last, it's not gonna be falling down or coming loose, and it's gonna last. And this company is actually looking at doing 3 inches as opposed to the 2 inches that the other company was gonna do. They're also going down the walls, because that tin and stuff comes down, so they're gonna spray all the way up from the walls, all the way across, so it'll be a much better product, so.
Will that help with insulation and stuff like that? As far as
Absolutely.
heating and cooling?
What did you say that they said our,
Oh, the guy was like, oh my God, he goes, your bill is gonna drop in half. He said, you have nothing. He was like, you got a metal roof and 4 air conditioners. So I really think I think we've saved some money just in doing our ideal impact, but just putting some insulation in there, because in reality, you can see through, you can see daylight in there, so it was bad. So if we could get that taken care of, that would be great.
Do you know, they put a cover over the sprayed in foam? They spray the foam up and they put something below that?
They do, it's like a sealant, it's white, and so it's smooth, and part of that is the fire code too. They're required to put there, so it'll have more of a, because I was afraid of that too, you know, that yellow spray foam you
Right.
see where somebody goes, it's gonna be a white finish.
Is it a smooth finish? Do they actually smooth?
They'll smooth it, it won't be like smooth like a wall, but probably more, he told me more cinder block-ish.
Okay,
a little
some
bit,
texture,
that kind of-
okay.
It looks textured, but it's not textured, they just smoothed it out over there. But I just think it'll be such a plus for that campus, because they've just not had a good meeting space for the whole campus in a long time.
Questions?
Any questions?
And the smart seal is the 2-inch,
3 inch,
3 inch?
3 inch.
Two on the
And
walls.
Bentley and Son, is that 2?
2 inches on roof and siding.
And the smart seal will pull, our guys will pull the insulation down, which will speed up the process for them. The other guys, they dropped their quote, but it was only down to 63,000 for our guys doing it. So
Okay.
it's, our recommendation is to go with the smart seal.
And hearing no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion with regard to this action item.
I make a motion to approve the installation of insulation at Arthur's Intermediate Gym.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ham and second by Ms. Carruthers. Any further discussion? Chair hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. That motion passes. Next up is the second reading and possible adoption of Tasby Policy Update 115.
Yeah, I've had some conversations, and Tracy and Brandy have conversations with our policy person on some of the, a few of the updates. I've also contacted our attorneys to sit there and make sure that there's no issues with adopting it. Their recommendation is adopt it as is, the update as is. So unless you have questions or concerns, then that would be my recommendation.
Has everyone had a chance to review those policy changes? Any questions or concerns? Chair hearing none, I'll entertain a motion with regard to the adoption of the policy service updates.
I move that the board add, revise, or delete local policies as recommended by Tasby Policy Service and according to the instruction sheet for Tasby Localized Policy Manual Update 115.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ham and a second by Mr. Bisco. Any further discussion? Chair hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Chair hearing none. That motion passes unanimously. The next item is discuss, review, and possible approval of the delegating of authority to the superintendent to approve and submit remote asynchronous instruction plan to TEA. Mr. G?
So you have the asynchronous plan in your packet. Dr. Vu has worked, and her staff have worked diligently to make sure that we have our plan submitted to TA on time. It's due October 15th or 1st, I think. So we are, I think they are approving at this point in time, I think they're about 60% of the plans that are going in. Okay. I think it's, I read somewhere it's 60% of the plans that they're approving. They're not approving all of them. She's been very diligent in what she's been putting together to make sure that our plan passes. She sent it to Region 11 to have them review it. I've reviewed it. Our principals, I believe, have reviewed it. So you've now had time to review it. The reality is there's a template that you follow that the TA put out. She's been very dutiful in making sure that that template has been followed and that everything is covered. We think we've got a good plan, and basically we need you to approve that plan. And if the TA says that we have to resubmit our plan, you're going to delegate me authority to be able to do that without us having to come back to the board again to approve again.
I don't have the statistics.
Okay, I know. I'm sorry. Sometimes I do that to you. I kind of.
I didn't prepare that piece, but this is essentially the plan that I shared with you in the Return to Learn staff handbook at the last meeting. It just includes more details. I went through the rubric that I shared with you. I made sure it hits every point. I did, as Mr. G mentioned, sent it to Region 11, and they responded, "You have a beautiful plan, so thorough." I left a few comments, mostly about links that didn't work, but there's not much to improve on, in my opinion. Kentdale ISD students are very fortunate. Your district has so many great resources to help students, teachers, and families be successful. Your plan
it was clear, concise, and tailor-made for Canadian ISD. That was the
Excellent.
feedback.
Good.
So,
That's nice.
the rubric, as you have noticed, there are 4 key areas: instructional schedule, materials, design, student progress, and implementation. Implementation includes the PD piece that we have provided as well. Within the plan that I shared with you, we've included links to our PD Google site with our schedules, instructional schedules for our campuses, a very detailed and comprehensive chart about the different instructional resources that are available. And that's all I have. So do you have any questions about the plan? I'm sure that you read it and highlighted it, annotated it.
I read it.
Study.
We're supposed to-
Read it.
If you see a typo, please let me know.
And she was asking for soliciting feedback to make sure that there were no typos in the document.
If you get past 40 pages, you see.
Yeah.
Any questions of Dr. Vu? Any concerns you have that you want answered before we take action?
I don't know if this part goes to TEA, in the details, but I just wondered about, attendance as far as, like today, if a kid says that they are virtual, but then they show up, like in person, or vice versa, if a kid says they're in person, but tomorrow they're absent, but they show up to the virtual meeting, like how does that?
That is not included in the
Okay, that's what, I didn't
learning
think so,
plan.
yeah.
That's up to the district.
Right.
As Mr. G and I have discussed, and we discussed with the principals, districts have some leeway in terms of what we, do we allow students on campus if they've said remote, or if
Right.
they've said that they want to be on campus, do we allow them to go home? And that's something that we've discussed at length with the principals, but it's not included in this plan.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
It doesn't need to be included.
No, it
Okay.
is not on the rubric,
Right.
sir.
Any
But I
other
would say
questions?
that's one reason why we went with the asynchronous plan, because it gives us more flexibility with attendance taking.
Yeah.
If we'd have gone synchronous, those kids have to be
Yeah.
on
A certain
there.
number
On
of
the time.
minutes.
So then,
Yeah.
the asynchronous plan allows us multiple ways to gain the attendance.
And it allows us to ensure that we are able to collect funding, even if students have to be quarantined for a set amount of time, or they have the sniffles or stomach bug,
Right.
they're able to work from home in ways that they
Great.
weren't able to do before.
Anything else, Michael?
Nope.
All right, thank you. Then I will entertain a motion with regard to granting the superintendent authority to approve and submit the remote asynchronous instruction plan to TEA, and I assume that means also make any adjustments necessary based upon TEA's recommendation.
Quick question before you.
Sure.
Do we know what the reasons were, why those other plans were being rejected, or?
I've reached out to friends and colleagues, just for some tips. TA hasn't provided robust feedback, unfortunately. They've said things like insufficient.
I don't.
Nice.
We kind of like, that look between us is because it's pretty arbitrary, and they really didn't give a whole lot of guidance in the first
Okay.
place. I think some districts submitted theirs very early
Yeah.
without a whole lot of thought process, and there were some, I think one district didn't, they
Somebody
left
didn't have
out.
a schedule.
Yeah, they left out certain things
They
that we,
didn't- They did bullet points. I will say, I have reviewed 2 plans that have been approved, and ours is so much more robust. Yeah, I mean, if it gets kicked back, I'm happy to revise it and do anything that they ask us to do.
I'm
but
gonna
it's
say,
very
what we're gonna
thorough.
turn in is not for lack of thoroughness, so,
No.
yeah.
I felt like I was writing a dissertation. And I had all these different pieces, and I'm trying to fill them, and here's a rubric, and oh, there's this piece, and
Right.
I had my readers giving feedback and asking questions, and here we are, 47 pages,
Yeah.
depending on the size of
And
the
how
font.
many
looks
links,
great.
yeah, and all the links, and,
It does look
you know, the other thing is that we included the links to the toolboxes that have been created, for, by multiple people who sit there, I mean,
We have a great team.
it's very thorough as far as what's available in the resources. I think that's why we got the comment, the resources that are available to our students and our families are pretty substantial.
Far and above what
Yeah.
a lot of other districts are offering.
Thank you for your work.
I'll make a motion that the board grant the superintendent authority to approve and submit remote asynchronous instructional plan to TEA.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Strange and second by Mr. Bisco. All those in favor, please, any further discussion, I'm sorry, anything else?
Nope.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Now that weight's off your shoulders, right?
Well, the next one may be a problem.
Now we've got to get it through TA.
Next item is review, discuss, and possible approval of the Edgenuity licenses. Mr. G.
Okay, so this summer, we were looking at options. We have had a program in our district called Grad Point. Grad Point, I believe, was
43,240.
something, yeah. $43,000 for 55 licenses. And what those licenses mean is that you can only have 55 students utilizing that. So we're paying a lot of money for 55 licenses. Dr. Vu was exploring some things, some resources to help with our students. We weren't really satisfied with Grad Point because it didn't have all the courses that we were looking for or needed. So.
It didn't align with the TEKS.
Huh?
It doesn't align with the TEKS, so we had to
Yeah.
make a lot of adjustments because it was designed for Florida.
Edgenuity was a product that had been out there, and they had, we had solicited some quotes from them. They had different packages. We were able to get a package that allows us to provide Edgenuity from 7th grade through 12th grade for all students for about $15,000 more than what we were paying for Grad Point. And it has more classes. It has more aligned with the TEKS. So there was a reason why we were looking at it. Another aspect of it was that we were looking at, when we came back into the school, if we had teachers who go out, what were we going to have as a educational platform for our students? Now, at our elementary, we have Imagine Learning that we utilize with them. But in the high school and the junior high, we really didn't have anything. So this was basically to align. All we had was Grad Point, and we didn't have access to all of our students. So this was a big part of our thought process. One, it's a much better deal economically for the pricing. It's one of the more highly recommended. It's used nationwide and used by multiple school districts. We vetted it quite a bit before we went with it, and I know that there have been some concerns that have been voiced about it, but Dr. Vu can speak to that as well. But I think that as Ms. Dickey has been very involved with Edgenuity and working through with our staff to make sure that they have what they need and what we're utilizing it for. I think a lot of it is just growing pains, and it's new, and people just haven't really worked through all the kinks yet. But we've been troubleshooting, and I believe a lot of those are being rectified as they come up.
As promised, we're adapting as we go. And I will say, just a couple of things to give you some background on it, because I know that we've gotten some feedback that is important, that is addressed currently. It's not about the tool, it's about how you use the tool. And we purchased Edgenuity to be a resource, a tool for teachers to use to support remote instruction. And thinking about the feedback that we received in the spring, we got a lot of feedback about just the enormous amount of work it was for teachers to create the videos and move all their assignments online and move all their quizzes online and moving their tests online. We got feedback from the parents about our teachers don't have the skill set to make videos that are interesting. Some did, some didn't. And curriculum is all about equity and access, that we are providing access to grade level standards for all of our students, no matter what classroom they land in. And so in response to that, we were going to repurchase Grad Point anyway, but I knew that we were looking at maybe a resource to help support the teachers there. And then also, in the rubric that I shared with you from TEA, under the materials section, there are all kinds of pieces about the plan must provide a clear research evidence base for instructional materials that have been designed for asynchronous instruction. We didn't have that for secondary at that point. It said they can be adapted for asynchronous, so districts like Fort Worth ISD, where they have a very robust central office staff, they hired people to create their own videos. They have instructional coaches or people that work at the district office. They were able to pay them to create the videos over the summer. We don't have the same kind of resources in terms of that. In the common pitfalls from TA, one common pitfall, you asked why are the plans rejected? The district doesn't address how materials have been designed for asynchronous instruction and included in the plan. So thinking about those three things: the feedback from the spring, the fact that we needed something for our Wildcat Success Center for our credit recovery anyway. So we had a way to pay a little bit more money to get more offerings for our students, but then also thinking about what was required to be able to collect ADA for students who are learning remotely.
Before
and then-
Dr. Boone came up with hand, Dr. Devlin, I was looking at Dr. Devlin, Dr. Devlin and the campus administration, Ms. Bryson, and we were exploring other options for Grad Point at that time when we were looking at creating Wildcat Success Center. So this is not a new thing that was coming, this had been in place, and Ms. Bryson had been exploring all these different options. So we've been looking at it before this point in time. So it just, with all of this, with COVID-19, it seemed like the right time to make the switch.
And I'll say too, it wasn't designed to be a tier 1 resource. That wasn't why it was created. Until this moment, there wasn't really a market for that in K-12 because learning happened in school. And so while maybe next year or the year after that, we might have more options, right now, we have a handful of things that schools, in this area are using that are aligned with the TEKS that qualify for credit recovery. And this is the best of the options that we had. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is there such a thing as a perfect resource? Absolutely not. That's why we have certified, trained, professional human beings in the classroom to be responsive to the teachers. So a lot of the concerns that we've heard about Edgenuity are less about Edgenuity as a software program and more about remote learning and being different and new and hard, and we're having to learn and adjust. A couple of things in addition to the course offerings that Edgenuity offers that isn't offered in other platforms include robust customization tools for educators. They can make accommodations and modifications for students with Section 504 plans and IEPs. That's something, in talking with our special education teacher at the high school, she said that was really hard for that team in the spring to have to go into every teacher and every assignment, every quiz and do it individually. That was a hard thing. It also includes an addition of an adaptive RTI system. So that was another thing we didn't have in 7-12. So students who are reading below grade level or who didn't meet expectations on the STAR exam, they're put into a separate class oftentimes. And it was up to the teacher to design all of that instruction to target individual needs. But this particular platform allows the students to take assessment. It also integrates with MAP. So the students can take the MAP test and it'll give them an individualized program tailored to their unique needs. That was new, that was different. And that's something where we talked about it being important that all students could have access to that as opposed to just the 55 licenses that we have. It also includes some SEL components, character, leadership development, college and career readiness, mental health and wellness, which seems particularly important right in this moment. Our junior high is using it during WIN time. Our high school is using it during study hall and during some other elective courses. As far as the concerns that have been expressed, there's some legitimate technological issues that we have been working around the clock to troubleshoot and work on. Kids can't get logged in. There's some issues with we need to update your browser for this to work. There was something that we didn't discover until recently, which has caused a lot of problems, a list of websites that need to be whitelisted at the district level so that students can access them. All of those things have been addressed. Some issues with learning how to use the software. So one example is that if students are working in the program, they have to hit submit for it to save their work in the same way that if you're typing a paper in a Word document, you have to hit save. If you just close the Word document, you would lose your paper. So those are just some things that we're working with teachers as well as students and families to understand just unique quirks about the program. It's not perfect. And then some of the issues that we've had have to do more with things outside of our control, like students having issues with internet connectivity at home. They don't have fast enough internet speed to support the playing of the videos. We've had several parents talk about the amount of time their students are spending in the program. So part of that happens as far as the decisions made at the teacher level. So if there's a video that lasts 52 minutes and you know that your class period is 45 minutes and then there's an assignment that goes with it, that would be something that the teacher team would think and talk about and say, this might not be appropriate for a single day. This may be something that we spread over several days so that we're not asking our students to watch a video that's longer than the class period. That's not an Edgenuity issue or a software issue. That's learning about remote instruction and how it's different and new and just things that we have to talk about and think about. But we've had parents talking about the amount of time and then in working with the principals when they're pulling some of the session logs. In some of the cases, the student is saying, I'm spending 8 hours a day, and the session log that records all the amount of time that the student is logged into Edgenuity says an hour and a half or 2 hours. And so there's some disconnect
You're
between.
talking about, yes, there are concerns, and we've had some, but how many parents have addressed those concerns with the two principals?
So Mr. Ryan said he's heard from one parent, and he was able to address that. And Mr. Cagle said he's heard from two parents. I've heard from one parent, but it was one of the same ones that spoke with the principal. We have a Google form because we want this to be useful. We want the teachers to like it. We want the students to like it. This isn't something we're trying to shove down anybody's throat. This is about the feedback we got in the spring that said, we don't have time to make videos, we don't have time to put our quizzes and assignments online, we're having to do so much, and if in the fall we have students at home and in the classroom, this is gonna be too much for us. And us trying to troubleshoot and be responsive, and so now some of the feedback is, well, we don't like the videos, we don't have to make it, but they're a little long, you know, they're boring, and so we're gonna continue to adapt and respond, but you know, it's new for all of us, none of us have ever done this before, and we're figuring it out as we go. The reason we're bringing this to you is because it's over $50,000. And so we need something for credit recovery. One benefit of this is it offers course recovery as well. So with GradPoint, the student would have to fail the whole semester before they could go in and do, you know, make specific credits. But with this, if they fail just a unit, they can go in and do the work on that. So as a high school teacher, sometimes I would have a student who failed the first 6 weeks, and they get pretty good at math by the time they get to high school, and they say, mathematically, I can't pass if I make 100 during the third 6 weeks, so I'm all done here. And they'll just wait. And so this is great because it creates an opportunity or a path for them to earn credit when they might otherwise not feel motivated to do that.
Yeah, and I guess my biggest thing is like, this is not an additional program. You know, it's a new program, but it's not an additional program. We're not adding anything to the budget or anything like that. This was already a program, it's replacing a program.
Yeah,
that was
we already
budgeted
had
for.
something. We added the RTI and we added the SEL piece because the principals and the teachers they thought that the RTI piece would be useful. They thought the SEL piece would be particularly useful given the context.
So we're increasing the budget for it a little bit.
We own the software now, it's just we're opening up different pieces of it. We
So-
own the software now?
So we got the academic piece
Or
for
the
summer school and that carried over
software as a
here.
service.
So we're waiting for the board approval because the contract goes from September to September. So we have a small portion that we purchased for summer school and we're looking at adding the additional pieces for the rest of the year.
And then on the GradPoint, is it same billing period?
GradPoint actually was from June to June, which is why we had to do that. We had to do the chunks for summer school this year.
So we've
Sep-
already got GradPoint for a whole year though, but.
No, GradPoint's
We did not
It's
renew
out the
Grad,
door.
that's what I'm saying, we did
We
not
didn't
renew
renew
Grad.
GradPoint. We got
Our
Our
educated for
contract with them
summer
was up and
school.
we're gonna have to renew it.
And we budgeted for a GradPoint-like cost, but now we wanna go with something.
Right.
different. Okay.
Right. And because of the SEL piece and the RTI piece, it's a perfect opportunity to use title funds to support because it's for our at-risk
Mhm.
learners.
But it also provides an opportunity for every student, 7 to 12.
Right.
At
versus
certain
50.
No, I think
times,
it's
call
I think it's a good
for
deal.
innovative measures. What questions do you have?
You mentioned a Google form, when we were talking about feedback.
Sure.
What was that?
It just came out today, it's on the,
It came
So
out.
we shared it with teachers. We shared it with teachers last week. Ms. Dickey asked the teachers to include the link in their Google Classroom so it's easy to find. But because we want to make sure it's accessible, we also have the Curriculum Student Services newsletter, which goes out monthly, except during COVID. It went out today, and so it includes a link to the form as well. Yeah, and I'll
But
say,
it previously gone out through the classrooms.
yeah, we sent it out to teachers twice last week, is that right? We sent it out to teachers twice last week. We've gotten 23 responses. As of yesterday, we hadn't gotten anything since Monday, but I just looked. We got one today from a teacher, but it's asking, please add these students to this course. So the principals haven't gotten negative feedback. I have gotten negative feedback that hasn't been addressed. And then we have the Google form that's to ensure that we're being responsive. If there's an issue, we want to fix it. A lot of the issues that we've noticed per the Google form are user error. They're not hitting the done button. They're not hitting the submit button. Some of them, our students they're not able to work through the assignment. And I spoke with Mr. Cagle about it, and he said that this is something that he's seeing across the board, that our high school students are being asked to take more accountability for themselves and their work than maybe they've been used to before, because when you're in a classroom and you're not working, a teacher will say, hey, I noticed you're not doing any work. I notice your body language tells me you look frustrated. Let's work this out. Let's talk through it. When they're at home and they're feeling frustrated or they're not able to understand, the teacher may or may not pick up on that. And so that's one of the reasons. So we made the Google form available to teachers, students, and parents. And we have different pathways so that depending on what is it a technical issue? Is it I don't understand issue? Is it I just need technical support issue? So we can troubleshoot faster because we want to get people what they need.
But the parent side came out today.
It's been out since last week. We asked the teachers.
Well, I know, but it went to the Google Classroom. Parents don't have access to Google Classroom. The students have access.
Tell me
The
more.
students who are utilizing it have access to sit there and voice their concerns.
No, but I'm saying the parents just now got access today to the Google form directly.
I'm going to defer to Ms.
Okay.
Dickey.
Okay.
But we did have some feedback from parents prior to the form. They were contacting the teacher.
Right.
And then the teacher was contacting us.
Right.
So we have had some parent, and most of the parent feedback has been, turns out, technical issues.
I was gonna say, because when you mentioned the principal, I have contacted a few teachers, but I didn't contact the principal. I just contacted the teacher. I didn't CC the principal to it.
Yeah.
I know that for me, for my daughter, it is time, because on one of the sessions, it says it took 38 minutes.
Right.
It took her an hour and a half to actually go watch the video, do the 10 questions, watch the video, do the 10 questions. I mean, I sat there with her. She's printing out notes. I guess my question is, you mentioned earlier, this is not considered a Tier 1 resource.
It was not designed to be a Tier 1 resource.
Right.
When the designers of Edgenuity were creating it, they were creating it for credit recovery, for
Right.
summer school, for those things. We're using it in response to this global health crisis.
Yeah.
I will say the timing issue is something I've heard a lot, and I think it's a problem, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. So I've spoken with Mr. Rhines about it, with Mr. Cagle about it. Just like with anything, we have to, as teachers, we have to think about what we're doing and hear feedback from our students and adapt. And so if there's something that's taking 2 hours of a student's day and we're able to get that feedback, we should adapt at the classroom level because we want to be responsive to the
And
needs of our
I
kids.
think secondly, too, maybe the communication with how teachers are supposed to use it, because it's not, at least in Emmy's case, it's not just that it's Edgenuity, but it's Edgenuity plus there was another assignment for that class. Plus there was another quiz that she had to take for that class.
On the same day.
Right, yeah, the same day. Or maybe it's over 2 days, but it's not adding up to 90 minutes, right? Or,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's just, it's in addition to other things. So maybe that's just a clarification for teachers on exactly how Edgenuity is supposed to be used. And then secondly, you mentioned earlier that it did have flexibility. You could change if you want to take the video out, or if you wanted to change part of the course, I think that would
Yes.
be, I mean, in the couple, I did 2 of them with her, and it would have about 4 short videos.
Sure.
But in between, there'd be 8 to 10 questions in each one. Now, I don't know how they're adding up, how long it takes to do a question, but it takes more than like 30 seconds, right? So I think that's how they're adding it up to the 38 minutes. But it was really more, I mean, unless you want a kid just clicking through it.
Right.
So I think what you mentioned earlier would be a great adaptation for teachers, just giving them flexibility. Let them go through the course and realize, oh, we don't need to watch 10 questions. 5 questions is more than enough to get that benchmark.
And I will say, and this is part of us just adjusting and listening to feedback and being responsive, when we rolled it out, the Edgenuity trainers came in and they recommended, we set it up, we have a start date, we didn't have an end date, and it looked more like we might use it in Wildcat Success Center. And immediately the feedback from the teachers, this is not working. The feedback from the parents is, this is not working. And so I spoke with Ms. Dickey, she called Edgenuity, she said, what can we do? Can we adjust the settings? How does this work? Let's think about it. Because when I spoke with the rep before we even, talked about this as a real possibility, what I was envisioning is this is almost like a textbook. It's an online repository of resources. There's some videos, there's some quizzes, there's assignments, there's all kinds of things. And the teacher teams are going to go through the units because I have a colleague in Burleson who they've used this for a long time, and she was gracious enough to share the work that their teachers had done. So they already had notes about which videos, scratch this one, swap this one, so they were able to start with that. But say, as a team, we're going to use this, we're going to cut out this, we're going to use this, and almost like a buffet. And then they can use that in combination with a variety of things. That wasn't the message the teachers got at the beginning because there was a misunderstanding, we'll call it, with the Edgenuity trainer, because what I had spoken to about what was possible with the rep and then what the trainer was talking to the teachers, there was a conflict there. But we addressed that immediately. And I know Ms. Dickey spoke with the teachers. She's been working very closely with teachers, but I wanted to make sure that they knew. So I reached out to Mr. Rhines and Mr. Cagle. I went to both campuses. I talked with the teachers. I explained it. And I said, we're asking you to use it, and we're asking you to use it regularly. And here's why. Yes, it's a resource. Regularly, right, language matters. It's with your team, decide what's most appropriate for your class. But the fact of the matter is that we are in the middle of a pandemic like none of us have experienced in our lifetimes. And I want to make plans and think about the school year as I always have. But the fact is that things can happen, and we need to. I want to believe that everything is going to be absolutely perfect and we're not going to have any issues, but teachers might get sick. Students might get sick, and so we have to have a contingency plan. And so what Mr. G mentioned is true. The reason I want the teachers to use it and use it regularly is because if they use it and then don't use it for 8 weeks, kids forget their passwords, and I don't remember where to click, and all the issues that we've been dealing with for the past 2 weeks become issues again. And then let's just imagine the worst possible thing that could happen. I hope that it doesn't. I don't want it to, but it could. We could go out a whole team of teachers, and then we don't have a way to make sure that we're responsive to the needs of the kids. And so in that case, we flip the switch, we change the settings, and then the students are able to get instruction from Edgenuity. And so that's one reason, too, why I want them to use it regularly, just so that the kids are familiar with it.
But regularly in your mind is not, that's
Every single day,
always-
all day, every day, absolutely not.
Okay, and so,
No, it's not an
That's
easy
not the
button.
only resource
No.
you're using.
well, and I
not
want to
an
make
easy
sure it's
button.
clear that they're not obligated to use that. This is in supplementation to what they want to teach. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a resource in response to the feedback that we got. I can't tell you how many hours and hours we devoted to making that curriculum toolkit, which I hope you've explored in great depth, because it's full of a wealth of resources. So I certainly wouldn't say, here's this one-stop shop, only use this when we have all these other things as well. The idea is to trust the professional experience and expertise of the teachers. I'm asking for alignment because that's what curriculum is. It ensures equity and access. It ensures that kids don't have gaps that, follow them up through high school.
And what she just said is another issue. How do you ensure in virtual and all those equity when you don't have alignment in your curriculum? So trying to make sure that you have
Yeah.
something to help base your alignment off of. Okay.
I had expressed concerns and I'll just kind of say, we had some discussions about this because, as I told Dr. Vu, it seems like ingenuity is a bad word right now with the parents. And after talking to other teachers, asking her about what the admin wanted, and that this is the program that they would like to use as a supplement. One of the teachers said in the spring I could not do the videos. It was just so much between trying to do the videos and trying to get something that the kids could take a quiz on, trying then to get that graded, and did they cheat when they were doing that? That this is a good resource if it is used properly. And like I said, I asked a couple of different ones. Tell me your thoughts. My daughter uses it also, so I kind of done a little bit. But the other thing was with the time is what this teacher told me is the kids were saying they were on there, and it came back
When
that
we print up the session log, there's a conflict.
it was idle. And he had said, he goes, I have about a bunch of kids failing, and then you go back and look, and they were on, but they weren't working, and it was idle. And
That's not always the case.
it's not always the case,
Not always the
but
case.
high school kids,
I mean, I may just not be good at 7th grade math. That might be the case, so.
it is very
I'll
normal
match you that
for
one.
them to go, I'm working, Mom, and you can't check this,
I'm
so
working, Mom."
I'm busy.
We've had
And
a lot of that.
and said that in nearly all the cases of this teacher's classes, the ones that were failing, that was it. I can totally see when they were idle and when the amount of time actually working. And then when those parents called and said, hey, well, they may have told you they were there for 4 hours. They really were working 12 minutes.
That is not always the case.
No.
But Ms. Dickey spent a lot of time showing the teachers how to pull the report, showing them here's how you attach it to an email to send to a parent, because sometimes just a data point is really helpful for parents versus what their kids say. It's not
One
always the
thing to add
case.
on to, the depth or the length of the assignments, I think everybody needs to realize that this program was generated for credit recovery and for students who
Have already taken the
were
course.
in places like Wildcat Success Center, where that's all they're doing all day long. They're doing that one class for a long period of time, where they've got 2 or 3 periods built in to recover that credit, because they gotta have that credit for graduation. So I think, the pacing of it and the spacing it out,
It's gonna take time.
It's gonna
Teachers
take
have to
a
get
little while to
used
work
to
through all
it
those
and
things.
practice and get the feedback.
But the main thing that I heard from you, which is what I wanted to hear, was this is not you up here saying, y'all are gonna do this, you have to do this. This is what
The teachers
the
ask for help.
APs and if they want to work with and try to make it work. And we've gotta have something, but if they want, nobody likes someone dictating what that you have to do, but.
I will say, when you have something new, I think if you don't require them to use it to some extent,
They won't try.
it's just that new thing that
I
we're
know
not
I did
gonna
that as a
use, and,
teacher.
I don't have to use it, I'm not going to use it, if you
I've
don't
always
have
done it
them-
this way.
Yeah, we have that problem with a lot of new programs and things.
In this
where-
case, it's part of our contingency plan. In
Right.
this case, this is not a normal year. This is not a normal set of plans. We don't know what's gonna happen from day to day, and we wanna hope for the best, but make sure that we are prepared for the worst. And it's not perfect.
No.
But it's good. It's better than the teachers just taking attendance is taking some of them so much time. So we want to give them a buffet. Here's a repository of resources. If you want to make your own and you can make them better, I bet that's possible. But maybe you don't have time to do that. Maybe you can do that once or twice a week, and then other days you can pull this, and over time you can develop it. But we have buildings full of first-year teachers, because the tools that they have cultivated over time don't work anymore in many cases. So it's like putting a whole bunch of really experienced people who are, they've been digging trenches their whole life in a concrete room with a shovel and saying, good luck, make this work. And they're gonna figure it out because they're smart and they're professional and they're tenacious, but it's gonna take some time. And so I hope that in the same way, I hope teachers are giving our students and families grace, and I hope that our students and families are giving our teachers grace, because we're trying to figure this out together.
But what I have heard, again, you and I had a conversation, but one thing I don't want
Lots
to
of
miss
questions.
is the continued issue we have is that we need to encourage communication between parents to teachers, parents to principal, teachers to principal. We still have this fear of communicating up our chain. We still have this concern, and I will express on behalf of the board, I think all of us want that communication. And there shouldn't be fear about communicating. If it doesn't work, talk about it, but don't just sit there and let it fester. And that's what I think this is, festered. And you're saying you've heard 3 people. I can go through 20 text messages of different parent-teachers who are struggling with it, but they're not communicating it to anybody. So I think it's important that we continue to message that we are open for your comments. We are open to hear. We want to learn. And for the teachers in this district who have kids, you are a perfect resource to help you design and implement our curriculum and make it work better.
We want this to be a support, not something that feels like a chain around the neck. We made the form. It makes it easier. You fill out the form,
Yeah.
you answer the questions.
Whenever I-
responsive.
Social media, everybody's on social media, they want to blow things up, but then whenever I talk to the principals, none of those parents that were on social media had voiced any concerns to them.
And I think that's, it's unfortunately where we are in this world. Well, let's gripe and complain on there and trash it, but we're not gonna go, can you solve my problem? It timed me out. Oh, well, no, it was other problems, or
You have to submit.
you have to hit submit, some of those different things. Let's go try to find a solution to the problem. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's easier to gripe and complain.
But we do need to continue to message that we are open for that communication.
Absolutely.
And
We want to make it better.
But
We're
the
going to spend this much
first-
time on
But the first
something
line of
and money.
communication should be their teacher.
I agree.
If my child has a problem, they're not getting the work done or don't understand, my first stop should be asking that teacher, what do we need to do to make this better? And if I can't get satisfaction from that teacher, then move up.
Right.
But, we have to direct the parents and the students also to go to your teacher first to try to solve the problem, because usually that teacher knows more about it
Than
than anybody
else.
else,
And-
school boards,
And my,
because we don't deal with
my
it.
argument is gonna be, if they're coming straight to the board, have they spoken to the campus principal? If they haven't spoken to the campus principal, they should be speaking to the campus principal. And the campus principal is gonna ask, have you spoken to the teacher?
Yeah.
And if they haven't spoken to the teacher, they need to talk to the teacher and see what's going on in the classroom. Because I'm gonna tell you, that principal's not in every class, classroom teaching. That teacher's in the classroom teaching, and they have more information. And the parent really needs, as you said, talk to the teacher first. And if you don't get the satisfaction, you're not hearing the things that are gonna answer your questions, then you go to your campus administrator. But you don't jump to the board. And, that is my biggest issue and concern with those chains of communication that need to take place.
I agree.
Well, I think we can use, you mentioned social media, I think we can use it for good though, as well, right? If we know that that's the communication the parents use, then sending that Google form out on social media
We did that
would be
today.
that, okay. I haven't looked, so I've been busy.
Today.
That's awesome.
We're
Check.
always troubleshooting.
But, I'm saying like that, let's use the avenues that they're using. The newsletter's great, email's great, but we know that not all parents, let's be honest, don't read newsletters or emails. Is it available in Spanish? Is it available in Vietnamese? Like what, there's always some sort of a conflict. So if we know that this is where the avenue that they're using to communicate, well then let's sneak ourselves in there and try to get that feedback in those avenues. I will say, I did like the idea about teacher choice. I think that's important. If the discussion here is between Edgenuity and GradPoint, I think that's easy. It's Edgenuity.
Or Apex.
But then I think, to your point though, then the next step is, okay, then how do we adapt? How do we make it better? And I think teacher choice is important in that there are some teachers, as you said, in the spring, they were struggling. That video stuff, they needed something. And I think this is a wonderful resource. But to be honest, you got some teachers like, I've got this. I've already done videos. I've already got playlists. I've already got choice boards. So I think that's where I was saying earlier, the communication needs to be clear in that we're not saying that you have to use this every day. And maybe somewhere down the chain it got communicated to them that way. I don't know. But
I think at the beginning we
am-
gave it a specific amount of time, but that
Right.
came from the Edgenuity
Right.
trainers, and that's why I went to the campuses to say, look, we pivoted because of your
Yeah.
feedback, and here we are now.
And I do agree, though, that if they don't use it regularly, then it's, the password's issue. So however that looks, whether it's once a week, however that looks is fine, I think. But it's important to give teachers that choice because ultimately that's who we're paying. We're paying the teachers to teach the kids. And really, when you think about the student experience, to be honest, that student doesn't want to watch that guy in a tie for the next 3 hours. And it's the same guy in English, and it's the same guy. I watched him. It's the same one, and he's not, let's just be honest, we're going to be clear, he's not the most,
Dynamic speaker.
yeah.
Exciting.
He's not engaged.
I mean, I was struggling at 9 o'clock at night to listen to him. So it's the teachers' faces they want to see. And so I think as long as that choice is there for them, and however they, as you said, however they choose to do it, that's fine. Just give them those guardrails.
There's one thing I do want to say. I have not spoken to a teacher that this has happened, I haven't spoken to a teacher where this is the situation, but I have heard rumblings of this, and so I just want to be really clear about this. We never intended for teachers to hit play on Edgenuity and sit back with just sit back and watch it go, ever. And there have been some instances where I've heard a parent contacted a teacher and said, we're struggling with Edgenuity, and the response was, the district is making us do it. And I want to be really clear about that. We're saying, use it regularly, and I'll add, use your professional judgment and discretion in making sure that you're using it effectively. This is our contingency plan, but as long as we have certified experts in the field, even if they haven't done remote learning before, they still are working, troubleshooting, problem solving, that's our go-to. We want that. That's better than anything that any software program could ever provide. And so whenever you say the district made me do it, I struggle with that because we're saying use it regularly, use your professional judgment and expertise. And so just hitting play on Edgenuity and seeing families and students struggle, now I'm struggling because it feels like we're being misrepresented because that isn't the case. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear as well.
All right, any other questions? Comments?
All right, Then I'll entertain a motion with regard to the purchase of Edgenuity as presented.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of Edgenuity as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ham and a second by Mr. Bisco. Is there further discussion? Chair hearing none. All those in favor, please sign by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for items E, F, or E and G,
Those need to be in executive session?
E, G, and 9, we need to go into closed session.
Okay. So I have, it is 8:19, and the board will now recess into executive session. Do you need members of the audience to continue to stay?
Mike.
So I gather that everyone else can go home. Thank you all for coming. And
Thank you, guys.
Hey, you all,
Thank you, Dr.
I
You
go
can't,
home?
no, you have to stay.
not you, Sean.
You have to go?
That's okay, right?
Okay, we're fine. We still have a quorum. We still have a quorum.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make sure.
Thank you for coming, Sean.
Will you sign?
Right. We are back in regular session following the conclusion of executive session, and I believe we have action that we need to take with regard to items F and H. The first is under item F, consider possible approval of the KISD Multi-Hazard Emergency Operations Plan.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the 2020 and 2021 Multi-Hazardous Emergency Operations Plan as presented.
Second. Oops.
Motion by Mr. Bisco and second by Ms. Carruthers. Any further discussion? Chair hearing none. All those in favor, please sign by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair hears none. That motion passes unanimously. We move on to item H, consider and take possible action to extend certain safety and security measures. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to discuss in closed sessions in accordance with the board solid policy CKC. I move to authorize the indefinite extension of the proposed safety and security measures originally approved on March 24th, 2020.
Motion by Mr. Bisco,
Second.
second by Mr. Strange. Any further discussion? Chair hearing none. All those in favor, please sign by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair hearing none. That motion passes unanimously. That concludes all matters on our regular agenda, including action items on the,
No,
oops,
hiring, we gotta,
I don't think we have to do anything on the hiring.
yeah, it says to,
Let's see, what,
under B.
am I missing it?
I don't see anything under B.
B?
To hire the above referenced personnel for the remainder.
I don't think, we don't have to make a motion on those.
No.
Those are presentation items
simple.
only.
Okay, well,
I mean,
Chad,
yeah.
she put it on here, so tell her that,
Yeah, it does.
For hires.
It's,
it says because it's not, I mean,
There is an action needed on it, is what
I
it
don't-
shows.
Yeah,
we don't usually, that's usually your thing, but it does.
yes.
And I thought maybe it's
We can-
because of the remainder, because it's not the,
We can we can do a motion. on it, just put-
if the board's more
No, 'cause it's
comfortable,
always it's my recommendations and our hires, so, I mean, that responsibility should be mine, so,
well,
sorry
it-
it was on there.
Yeah, I don't wanna be in business of hiring.
No, I think it was more
Okay.
just the
Okay,
information of
I
who
think
we're
it'll work,
hiring.
yeah.
I think it's just more informational for y'all, supposed to be
I would agree. I think that normally it's simply a presentation of information to us
Yeah.
and a discussion, so, but we didn't, I don't see as it's either on the agenda or that as an action item, so.
make sure Tracy doesn't get us.
Sorry about that.
Okay, then there are no other items to be addressed tonight, and it is 9:17. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all.
Brian.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.